What's going on, Internet? Iron Jordan here. Today, I want to take a break from the discussions and from the more controversial topics, ban lists, tier lists, and calling for reprints on cards that are a month old to bring you guys something a little more fun, a deck list. This is Red Green 60 card Clash of Fates Goku. Now, I understand that ClashKu, the one out of set 10, the Green Goku out of set 10, is widely regarded to be better than this leader, but I think this leader actually does some things a little bit better than ClashKu, and I'll explain as we go on. So if you've never seen this leader before, he came out in Clash of Fates. He's green. He has auto burst 2. When he attacks, you mill 2. You discard a green card, and then you draw 2 cards. He awakens at 4 life. He untaps 2. On the bat side, he has Sparking. I believe this is Sparking 5, which is it's kind of hard to see because it's blurry, but I believe it's Sparking 5. Doesn't matter because you're always going to have Sparking 10, 15, 20 by the time you hit your bad side, so that's not much of an issue. He has an auto. When he attacks, he gains plus 5k and double strike if you have a Krillin in your drop area, and he draws a card when he attacks, obviously. So, obviously, the leader's theme is, Clash of Fates was meant around the battle, the fateful battles, Bardock versus Frieza, Goku versus Frieza, stuff like that. It was based around those fateful battles, and the theme of this leader is to, obviously have your Krillins die and do things. It's always been this leader's MO. And it's always been really fun, in my opinion. And he even holds up really well in this current meta. He actually gets a little bit stronger with the addition of Unisons. Now, the way that I like to play this leader, I like to play it as a control leader. I like to sit on as much life as I can, 6 to 8 life. I think 6 is the sweet spot for this leader. Get to 5 energy, drop a Kaioken. It's really simple, it's really straightforward, but it's not the only not the only way that this deck can win. This deck can win through multiple different ways, and we'll go through that as we start talking about it. So, firstly, this is a 60 card list, and one of the new additions is the Zeno Frieza. Now, this card is really good because it pitches card from our hand without losing hand advantage. It's an extra 15k attacker. We can make it so that if our opponent tries to kill it and tries to interact with it, we can instead crit cards to our drop area, which is okay. I mean, it's not the best. It's not as good as Dimitra is, but when it comes to that, we don't actually mind having cards in our drop area, so we don't really mind losing the crit every once in a while. We're going to be sitting at high life totals most likely anyway because we're going to play very defensively. So we can afford to do that every once in a while if it's going to mess with our plans too much. Maybe we want to bring out the charismatic Frieza and we're sitting at 2 or 3 counters and we don't want them to hit our unison. It's totally fine for our leader to take that hit sometimes. And then obviously the activate main, you can choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards in your choice 4 or less, KO it, choose up to one of their unison cards and remove a marker from it. This can be pretty solid if your opponent is sitting at 2 markers on their unison and you're afraid of them having interaction with any of your things. The Kaioken is got deflect, so it's mostly safe, but it still does get messed up in the mirror match against green, against other charismatic villain decks. So this card's really good. It's been very solid for the deck. Just another way to pitch cards into the graveyard and get us to that ever closer to that 20 and to bring out the Kaioken. So moving on, we have For the Greater Good. This card has been a staple of the deck since set 7 came out, which is when this card came out. It is just to negate you can play from the drop area. Now, these were really big back when Kaioken was in the meta because, if you have one in your deck and Kaioken rips it out of your hand, you still have a negate to stop it with. So if you're sitting at, 6 life, you're not going to instantly die to the Kaioken. Or if you're sitting at 4 life, you're not going to instantly die to the Kaioken. Whereas if you didn't have something like this and they ripped all your negates out of your hand, then you were, dead in the water. This is good for multiple reasons in our deck. We can pitch it off our leader and it's still alive later on in the game. You can play 2 if you want. I don't think you want to play any more than 2 because you can only activate one card of this, one copy of this card per turn, whether you activate it from your hand or from your drop area, it doesn't matter. And on top of that, we don't want to take too many cards out of our drop area to our warp because we do want to hit 20 for Kaioken. Next, we have Dormant Potential Unleashed. Again, this is just the best counterattack card in the game. It doesn't actually stop the attack, but it does hard limit the ability for your opponent to attack you. So it just buys a lot of turns, which is what we really need in this deck. So if you have it, play it. If you don't, you can play Shocking Death Ball. Shocking Death Ball is a very good budget alternative, and it sometimes can, against mid-range decks, can get the job done just as well. But against hyper aggro, you might have a bad time. Dormant Potential, run it if you got it. It also pitches cards to our graveyard, which is nice. Krillin, potential unlocked. Now, this is one of the newer cards. This was meant for ClashKu, obviously, but it does work with this leader as well. Permanent during your opponent's turn. If your leader card is a green Son Goku card and all your life is at 4 or less, increase the energy cost of this card in all areas by 3. Which is, really good. It gets around the problem that the old 1-drop Krillin had, where the old 1-drop Krillin was a 4-drop on your turn as well. So you were having to pay so much into it. You had to play it early. It's a 1-drop draw a card. It doesn't have blocker until later in the game. It's not 4-drop until the end of the game. This one is really easy to set up. It's always a 1-drop on your turn, which is really, really nice. It can gain blocker until the end of until the start of your next turn, or you can search for a unison card if you want. So you can early game you can use this to search for the Frieza. Although I don't recommend that. You're playing a CC card deck. It's going to be really hard to find a single unison in your top 5 cards. But you can do that if you want. And it just sits there and it does the job. It stands as a threat, stands as a blocker. Your opponent's going to attack into it. So you're going to get to use the Goku's effect, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. Chi-Chi, Motherly Mastery. This is the only mono red card in the deck. We need most of our cards to be green thanks to the leader's auto. But this card's too good not to run, as it is a free super combo at 0 plus 5k. If you have 2 or more red-green multicolor cards in your energy when you combo this card, draw 1 card. It's just fantastic. Just lets you play defensively early from turn 2 onward. The likelihood of you not having red-green energy on turn 2 is it's very unlikely. Getting a Broly in your opening hand and any other multicolored card will secure this card being turned on from turn 2 onward, and you can just defend your opponent's leader attack for free without having to really lose any card advantage, and it puts a red card in your drop area for the Kaioken, so that's why I run it. Preemptive Strike. Now, you might say, hey, you're running Charismatic, why are you running other counterplay cards? Doesn't Charismatic turn them off, after you use it? Yeah, that's why we use Preemptive Strike before we use the Charismatic, or we try to anyway. On top of that, Preemptive Strike can be gotten back by the Master Roshi that we have in our deck, and this card is just really good. It's always been a staple in the way that I play the deck. I've had no problems with playing this before I play a Charismatic. Playing this, playing your Vegeta the Cruel, and then playing Charismatic. It just really allows you to disrupt a lot of your opponent's turns. Some players are getting really used to playing against green and playing around Charismatic, where they play a threat that you really kind of have to blow up, and then they play something bigger or something more deadly or something more dangerous, and this kind of gets around that. Preemptive Strike and Vegeta the Cruel can really help you out if you just have all your energy open. If you're just playing draw go, people keep talking about Baby being like the first draw go leader, but they clearly haven't played this version of the deck, because that's what this deck does. So Preemptive Strike's good. We play 3 of it. You can play less if you want, if you find that it's too clunky for you, but I have the ratios in this deck where we have 30 cards that can be comboed with and 30 cards that can't be comboed with. Now, conditionally, the Raditz can be, so it does bump us up to 33-27, but for the most part, this deck is very balanced around itself. The ratios, I've been working on this since Clash of Fates came out. I've been playing this deck for a long time, and it just keeps getting better and better and better. So trust me on this. Preemptive Strike is really good. Next, we have Broly, Unforeseen Force. This is the first card in the deck that I think that you could probably switch it out for something else, and it be just totally fine. Obviously, other than Dormant, if you don't have them, play Shocking Death Ball, clearly. But Broly Unforeseen Force is just one of those kind of accelerants where it's going to get auto almost no matter what. The only card in the meta right now that really interacts with it and keeps it from coming down is the blue Counterplay Trunks, and typically they're going to hold that for something bigger. So this card's really good. 2 mana, 15k at the end of your turn if you have a red-green in your energy. Draw 2 cards, discard 1. Pretty solid, and then it KOs battle cards with a total energy cost 3 or less, so it hits tokens and all that other stuff, which could be good, very circumstantial. This card's fantastic. If you want to replace this, like if you have rebrands, the Draftbots rebrand that you pay 2 green and your opponent discards a card when you warp it, you can play that. I don't think that the rebrand is super good in this deck, because again, like I said, you want to keep cards in your drop area because you want to have cards for Kaioken. And paying 2 energy takes away. If you're going to play Rebrand, then you can go down on Dormants, then you can go down on Vegeta the Cruels. But hand control is not the main goal of the deck. That would just kind of be icing on the cake. So that's up to you. Also, this Broly is a little expensive. So if you want another really good budget option, there's a Popo card from set 4. It's a 2-drop 15k. It's a green card. And it says whenever you combo or attack with this card, you can mill up to 3 cards. And that's really good for getting cards into your drop area. But I found that with the inclusion of the Frieza Zeno, it's not necessary anymore. Adding this additional discard per turn helps you get to that 20 very easily by turn 5. Whereas before we were getting, even with the Popo, we were getting there by 6. So, Master Roshi, we played 2 of this guy. He gets back our Dormants, he gets back our Preemptive Strikes, which is really nice. And yeah, we play 2 of it because you don't want to warp cards from your drop area. You can go up on this. This is another one of those cards you can play instead of playing the Broly if you really want to. The card's super good. It just does a lot in this deck. It's a very free discard, just like For the Greater Good is a very free discard. Sometimes it's hard. One of the difficulties of this deck is finding out what I actually want to discard. So the Master Roshi is always free. The For the Greater Good is always free. Stuff like that. So yeah, Master Roshi is super good. Next, we have our super combo, which is Defensive Stance, Super Saiyan, Vegeta. This is probably one of the few green decks in the game that doesn't just want to play Paradis over almost anything else. This card is a Sparking super combo, which means that you get to use it very early in the game. It's always 0 plus 10k, so you don't get the downside of it being turned off. It's very easy to turn on. You have this if you're on the play, you have this by turn 3 turned on, maybe turn 2, depending on if you were able to combo out of some stuff. And if you're not, if you're on the draw, then you have this turned on by turn 2 very, very easily. So this is incredible. It also combos really well with your Chi-Chi if you need to get out of a big attack later on in the game, or if you're still on your front side and your opponent goes in for a big attack. That and the Chi-Chi really help you get out of stuff, and you can combo into your Gogeta or your Super Saiyan Scramble if you really want to, which is really nice. Next, we have Broly. He's our check land, so we play him. Play 4 check lands. We have 3 Vegeta the Cruel. This card's still good. It's hard to justify tapping 2 for a counterplay card in this meta when all the good counterplay cards are free. But when you're sitting on 4 or 5 energy and you've done nothing on your turn and you've literally just said draw, attack of my leader, mill some cards, discard, draw some cards, whatever, go, then it's a lot easier to justify because now you have, people are expecting the Frieza and they're trying to play around the Frieza. You pop something with the Charismatic or with the Vegeta the Cruel and they go, oh crap, well now I got to play the other thing and walk right into the Frieza, which happens. Or same thing with the Preemptive Strike. Next we have Krillin Steadfast Defender. This is the best Krillin in the deck in my opinion. It's a 2-drop, so it is a little bit more difficult to get off every once in a while. But it has Sparking 10. When you have 10 or more cards in your drop area, he's a 2-drop. So he's not a 2-drop naturally. Like I said earlier, my apologies. He's a 4-drop naturally, but you get the Sparking 10 really early in the game. You're getting there by turn 3 or 4 very easily. So when you play him, you draw 2 cards, discard 1. It's just really good. He's a blocker all the time. He's a 4-drop all the time. So he always triggers your Goku, which is nice. We have 3 Raditz. Raditz is just, hey man, do you have a red-green in your energy? You probably do. You don't have to pay the combo with this, which is really nice for your rival plays, which is for the Gogeta and the Scramble. Pretty self-explanatory. Next, we have the Final Showdown Goku, one of the all-stars of the day. This is one of your other win cons. Whereas I said earlier that we love to win through Kaioken, the other way that we win is just through double strikers. Our leader is a double striker on the back. This Goku is free and he's a double striker. The Gogeta is a 1-drop and he's a double striker. We have so much value when it comes to playing on the backswing, disrupting our opponent's plays with these double strikers that pop cards, and then on our turn, hey man, I didn't pay any energy for these double strikers, they're just coming at your face and we're gonna kill you, and that's just what it does. So yeah, this card's great. If a Krillin 4-drop gets popped, you play this guy and you pop something into Enduring Barrier, which is really, really nice. It gets around things that the next card doesn't pop. The Frieza Charismatic Villain. Everybody knows this card, everybody loves or hates this card. We're playing Unison, so we play it. That's about all there is to it. Gogeta, super good. You can only play one Gogeta per turn. But that's not really that much of an issue when we have so many other ways to disrupt our opponent's plays. We can pop so many things. We are playing a quintessential green deck. We are popping everything. I mean, we have how many cards here that pop cards? We have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight unique cards that kill things potentially, which is really really nice. So yeah, just Goji is super good. Kill something, uh, and it's double striker on your turn. Next, we have Big Daddy Cowkin. So the reason why we're playing all this big mill strategy and why we have 60 cards and everything, the 60 cards is because it can make some matchups, some grindier matchups, really hard and really dangerous because you end up milling yourself a lot. That extra 10 cards really helps you not die to yourself. If you have 20 or more red or green cards in your drop area, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 2, so it becomes a 5 drop. When your life reaches 1 for the duration of a turn, this card gains triple strike and dual attack and can't be KO'd by your opponent's skills. So when he comes down, he's going to be vulnerable to the Frieza unless you're already sitting at 1 life, which is unfortunate. But he really becomes immune to being KO'd and stuff after you deactivate main. So obviously the main goal of a Kaioken deck is to, hey, I'm going to sit at 6, 7, 8 life. I'm going to drop Kaioken on turn 5. I'm going to take my life down to 1, rip all those cards out of your hand, and I'm going to hit you with a triple striker. And that's just what I'm going to do. Now, if that fails, the final card in our deck is Super Saiyan 3 Scramble, Raditz, Vegeta, and Broly. This card is so good in this leader. I think this is the best deck for this card. Simply because your leader has natural double strike on the back. You can attack with your leader on the back. He has natural double strike. You can 4-0 your opponent pretty easily. I've done it every once in a while. It is really fun to do. It is also a gotcha moment. You swing in with your leader, you combo up real big, and they're like, "Hey, I'm at 4 life, right?" And you go, "Yeah." And you have, your rival energy up, and you have your red green comboed in your combo area, and you go, "Cool, pay 5. Here's my secret: take 2 damage." Now, can you get out of this combo? Probably not because of the SS3's ability. And that's why this card's really good. It's also really good in the Surge Broly, so maybe I'm a little off base by saying that this is the best deck for this card, but it is my favorite deck for this card for sure. And that's basically the entire deck. If you guys enjoyed it, let me know. I think this card can still. I think this deck can still compete. I think it does. I think dual decks do have dual color decks. That is, I think dual color decks do have a bit of an issue in the current meta because aggro is very relevant. And if you play a tapped energy against Gohan on turn 1, you might just die. So there's that. But other than that, I think this deck can still compete. Let me know what you think. Leave a like if you liked the video. Subscribe if you want to see more Dragon Ball Super content. I'm going to keep coming out with more videos as the time goes on. I'm really enjoying doing this. This is a really nice little hobby. I get to talk about a game that I love with people that I enjoy talking to. So we made some memes in the comments if you really want to. All right. Guess I'll see you guys in the next one.